Today, it's gonna be the. Hey everybody, Ricky here with Apple Valley Farm. You know, when I was a kid, horseshoes was like the game. So if you went to any family get together, any barbecue, cookout, anything like that, there was always a game of horseshoes going on. These days, it's cornhole. So everybody, it seems like, has got a cornhole set at their house, or they're at weddings, they're at tailgating parties, they're at barbecues and cookouts, they're at all kinds of things. There's a fantastic way for everyone to gather around, have a good time, even the kids. You can even do it inside. So for those of you that don't have a cornhole set yet, you probably want to make one, because you probably don't want to go to the store and spend a couple $100 on a really nice set. But I'm going to show you how we make one for a whole lot less than that, and we're going to use just some basic materials and some basic tools. And it's really easy. It won't take you long at all. This is how we do it. Here we go. All right, we're going to start off with our plywood. Now, plywood, in case you don't know, it comes in 4x8 foot sheets. This is 1/2 inch plywood, which is fine. When I got this at Home Depot, I got them to go ahead and just cut this into 2x4 foot sheets for me. That way it's really easy to handle and I don't have to worry about cutting it. Plus, if you don't have a truck, you can just put this in the back of your car and get it home. So now let's take this plywood. We're going to cut some holes right there, and that's our first step. So I'll measure over 12 inches, which is going to be halfway between the two sides, and then measure down 9 inches. I want to make sure that these intersect, and that is the center of our hole. Now with our center point marked, I'm going to turn our router jig over, put a nail in the 6-inch hole, and that is going to go on this spot. I'm going to tap it into place. And now we're going to use our router to cut a perfect 6-inch hole. Going to get ready to drill a few pocket holes. Going to use our K5 Craig pocket hole jig, our rigid drill and impact driver here with the bit and the driver on there, and some 2.5-inch screws for our 2x4s. So here we go. Let's drill some pocket holes. All right, now we're going to start joining up our frame. The 2-foot piece here is going to go on top of the side frame. Then our pocket hole screws will go in each hole. Pull this up tight, and it's going to make a super strong, very square joint. Super duper easy. Craig makes it really easy, so here we go. Let's join up some pocket hole screws. By the way, you may have noticed some of the stamping on the 2x4s, on some of my 2x4s. That's really common. Hey, don't worry about that. If that happens to you, just make sure these are on the inside of the frame. You know, you don't want those showing out on the outside. Let them be on the inside of the frame. Tell you, with this one, I'm going to put a clamp here just to give it a little extra hold, because I don't happen to have free hands. There we go. That'll help hold that in place while we get everything else in here. That way nothing will slip out of line. Of these boards, if you don't pay really close attention, they'll wind up being kind of warped, a little, as I call it, twisty. So this got a little warped, so I'm gonna have to pull this corner back in, and I'm just gonna do that with a big 24-inch clamp. So I'm gonna put that right down here at the bottom on this edge, all the way over here. Now we just want to squeeze it good. I don't know if you can see this or not. We're just going to pull that in just a hair. That's probably a little too much. I'll come back out just a hair. We're just going to pull it in just enough to get it nice and square. We've got our first frame done. Now we're going to get ready to put the legs. We're not actually going to put the legs on yet, but we're going to take our 11.5-inch leg and I'm going to cut a 24-degree angle here. Actually, it's going to bring this up to 10 inches. 11.5, 10 inches. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to come down 1 inch, and then I'm going to go in 1 inch and 3/4. That's half of 3.5. 1 inch down, 1 inch and 3/4 in, and then that's going to be the center for my circle. I'm going to draw a circle right here. I'm going to go to the bandsaw. I'm going to cut that off. Then we're going to get ready to put this on after we put the top on. All right, this is preliminary. Here we go. Now I'm going to take, actually, my Craig bit, which is a 3/8 bit. I'm going to take it and I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole right there. 1 inch down, 1 3/4 of an inch over. I'm going to drill a hole all the way through this. Then we're going to set the leg to the side, put the top on, then we'll put the leg on. All right, it's time to put our legs on. Okay, so I've got the frame laid out here on my work table. I'm going to take the legs, and they're going to be going like this. So they'll spin around like this. Push them up against the side, and I'm going to come in. This hole is going to be 2 inches from there. And here's another look at that. Look, it doesn't have to be exact. I know that's upside down, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, but we can see the top of this hole now is right at 2 inches. I'm going to come in just a hair more. And that's where we're going to go with it. Now I'm going to drill through this into the frame, then we'll mount everything together. I'm just going to clamp that in place because I want to make sure it doesn't move when I start to drill. Now every leg is going to get this recipe. I've got a 4-inch, 3/8 inch bolts, 2 3/8 inch flat washers, 1 3/8 inch lock washer, and 1 3/8 inch wing nut. Now let me show you how all this goes together. I'm going to come up through the hole with my bolt. If it doesn't go, you can give it a little tap. I'm going to put one of the flat washers here. Then I'm going to put the leg back on top of that. Now that flat washer will give this a little extra smoothness as it needs to pivot. All right, so let's go back down on here. Flat washer again against the wood. lock washer against the flat washer, wing nut on here, and that is it, Jack. Now, this is ready to swing down, and when it gets back up here, when somebody's ready to put it up, they can tighten this down and it won't wobble around. Now we just have to do this about 3 more times. Okay, so as you can see, we're ready to put the top on. Obviously, this is one we're doing for Tanger outlets, but we want to set the top up here on the frame. I like to put the legs down first if we're going to do this. That way it gives me plenty of room to get it adjusted, to get it where I want, and then have room up under here to clamp it down. Then we're going to measure off, drill some holes, countersink the holes, then put some weatherproof decking screws on here, and then we'll be ready to apply the finish. So we're gonna go 6 inches in, 6 inches in, and then 1, 2, and 3 feet are all around the edges. So we'll have 10 screws in the top, which will be way more than enough. All right, let's get them going. Alright, so I need to drill some pilot holes because this plywood will split when I put the screws in it if I don't. And I want to choose a bit that is just barely smaller than the threads on my screw. Do you see that? That way we'll give as much room as possible for the shank of the screw to get down in there, but we still want to leave a little meat on the wood for the threads to bite into. So we're going to do that all the way around. Okay, so now I'm going to use a countersink bit. I'm going to remove a little material around this hole. That way my screw will fit just below the surface of the wood. That way nothing will catch on it. All right, now we're going to use some decking screws, some coated decking screws. This way, this will make sure that if this thing's out in the weather, it's not going to rust or stain or anything like that. All right, I'm getting ready to put on our finish. Just using some oil-based polyurethane. I'm going to thin it 4:1 with mineral spirits. That means 4 parts poly to 1 part mineral spirits. Putting it in a bucket, gently mixing it up, trying not to introduce any more air than we have to. This should be more than enough. And we're ready to put it on. I'm going to put it on with a foam brush. This should give us the smoothest finish possible. If you don't have a foam brush, a regular brush will work fine. A sprayer even better. More bubbles this will introduce into the process. But since we thin this out, these bubbles should have time to rise to the surface and pop. So we shouldn't have to worry about anything. And there we go. Look at that. Now this is just after 1 coat of the poly. But after it dries really well, I'll sand it with some 220 grit. I'll put on some more, let it dry, I'll sand it, and then I'll put the final coat on there, and then we'll get some turtle wax, just some gentle car wax. Put that on there, buff this thing to a beautiful, smooth, high gloss finish, and those bean bags are gonna slide across there like nobody's business. I love the way these turned out. All right, everybody, so that was it. That was really easy, right? Hey, thanks a lot for hanging out with me for a few minutes. If you need any help making this, you need any material lists, or if you don't want to make one, if you just want to buy one from us, give me a shout. Let me know. We'll get together. We'll get our heads together. Thanks again for hanging out. Please like, comment, subscribe to our channel here. Have a great day. Go make something.